and this last section I have dubbed the in-betweeny state. As we know, we generally have two states of being, that of being awake on the physical life level and being asleep beyond it. In fact, we are everywhere simultaneously, throughout all of the 5 levels of creation, with our created 5 vehicles, and into the real universes with our real selves, that is with the is. According to the extent to which we have connected with the real self, taken the time to recognise our real awareness and the is, and earned the way, dictates what is potentially available for us by way of experience and position. So, sleep will open up this arena of unlimited experience potential and all the myriad life levels, dimensions and worlds that lie beyond the physical life level. There is a third area too, a place seemingly between physical waking reality and the real side, that straddles, bridges the two, a grey area if you will. Everything is experience, and experience serves us the opportunity to become more aware. If we can see this, and keep the personal little self out of the equation as much as possible. Because, yes, the little self is along for the ride, wherever we go, until we drop the created personal level and all the vehicles that encompass it. It's rather like an irritating little version of us, always accompanying the real being of light and sound, which is what we are now, and always trying to interject itself into every situation and convolute the valuable experiences by placing filters of emotion, ideas before it, and drawing on weary old references, current and causal. Whereas we ought be, as best as we are able, with the literal personal self tugging at our arm for attention, regard each and every experience objectively, and perceive what life is showing us, what it is that is behind what we are being shown. And so, this third area is a place between waking and sleeping, and just like the physical and the real side, it is just as invaluable a source of experience for our process. So what is this area of which I speak? It is a place we all experience, if we allow ourselves the opportunity. A place astral projectors, and indeed lucid dreamers, of which I was a practitioner, will be aware of. It's a state of being, where you are not quite asleep, but not quite awake, an in-betweeny state. Generally, we lay our heads and go to sleep as quickly as we are able, and on awakening, we launch out of bed just as swiftly. The dogs must be fed, it's time for breakfast, time to switch on the television, which isn't called television programming for nothing, incidentally. But what if we didn't seek out our cornflakes immediately, or be off on the real side the instant we are settled in our beds? Instead, as we find the waves of sleep, or the clarity of physical reality tugging on our attention, we might instead resist, maintain a medium between sleep and wakefulness, and ensure we in fact do neither. Astral projectors will consider this a golden place, for from this state such out-of-body excursions are more likely to occur, and lucid dreams easier to stimulate. The best time is in fact when we have just awakened, rather than trying to stay awake from a long day of agitation, chemtrails, and Wi-Fi bathing. If we have not had all the sleep we require, there is little chance to stay in this in-between state, so far better to get all the sleep we require. After then we first awake, and as we drift back into the physical, even if we have had our full quota of sleep, it's always possible to get a few more hours if we remain laying there and slip back under. But at this point, it is far easier to resist returning to the dream after we've had our full sleep quota. But at the same time, resist waking fully, and thus we are in this in-between state. On waking, we have not engaged our minds or emotions, or started ticking off that mental checklist of all we must do today. So, resist the urge to do this. Resist slipping back into sleep. Deny yourself the option of waking fully, and keep the emotional and mental body quiet, which is easier to do, having not been stimulating it all day, as we would have been doing prior to sleep, and thus we can stay in this in-betweeny state. You will find here that you are not fully in the physical, you are not totally focused on it, and only able to perceive with your physical vehicle senses. Your perceptions are now expanded. The range of what you can perceive is stretched beyond just the physical, and you will see all manner of strange phenomena. Again, it's imperative that you don't get too involved with the phenomena, regardless of how odd it appears. For if you try and activate your literal self, chuck in those emotional reactions, you will snap back into the physical completely, and the experience will be lost. And some of the things you may see here are so wacky you may be unable to help but launch yourself out of bed. Everyone probably has experienced things of this nature, but likely briefly, as they won't remain in the in-betweeny state for long, and anything experienced there they will put down to overspill from their dreams, or their imagination. But this physical level is the passing dream, and what is behind it is the real side, what you access in your dream state. So the phenomena you encounter in the in-between is more real than what you see here on the physical. So, what can you experience here? In fact, there is no limit to what you may perceive. I have, in this in-betweeny place, seen all manner of creatures, aliens, and beings. And so, yes, it's apparent they are there, but had I not been in this state, I would have been unaware of them. I had a little grey alien standing in my doorway, observing me. I imagine he intended to remain unseen, or maybe not, Perhaps he took the opportunity to manifest at a point where I was in the in-betweeny state. I was a little startled at first, but maintained the state and invited him to come in and converse. He didn't take me up on this offer, so perhaps then he wasn't expecting to be perceived. A curious regular visitor into my midst, when in this state, seems to be a selection of varying size and colour of arachnid. Why spiders in particular I cannot say, but they float back and forth as though on invisible webs. Some very much spider-like, some very close approximations, some so loosely resembling the species as to only just fit the category. Spiders feature heavily in my dreams on the real side too, most of which seem to be demonstrations of malignancy, their webs and webbing representing tap lines. For any idea we agree to, we become tap-lined by, and on the physical we can't see the tap lines as they are inserted, but on the real side the tap lines manifest as anything from snakes to tentacles, and so these are more obvious, but also vines, and in my case generally webbing, as vines, tentacles, and webbing snare and trap you, just as tap lines do. And so, in my in-betweeny state, I see these spiders once again. Seems they are what I will encounter just prior to a tap line. It may be different for others. In fact, once, a writhing mass of tendrils burst from my wardrobe and assailed me, while in the in-between. I fought them off as best as I was able, and they retreated, and I saw a padlock appear on the wardrobe. So, as you can see, you can have a chance to witness those pesky early morning tap lines, assuming you've agreed to something that allows their insertion, for the dark forces are sneaky, and will bait you into agreeing through all manner of underhand and sly methods. As an aside, once I had a dream where I saw these hideous spiders setting up huge web kingdoms in people's gardens, with ill intents in their spidery brains, I have no doubt, and I took it upon myself to dismantle their nests. Other things I see are peculiar blobs floating around, like little amorphous masses of matter. I have impressions that these are not very beneficial either. In fact, many of them blob toward me directly, and try and latch themselves onto my face. One impression I had strongly was a particularly gruesome and black one that would, if it attached to me, cause cancer. And it made a bee-line, or a blob-line, for my face, but I dispatched it immediately. The real self always knows what to do, and so, when you are in this in-betweeny state, when you are not accessing the mental and emotional vehicles, then you are in fact connecting with your real awareness, with the irritating personal self far more readily kept at bay, and thus, in this state of awareness, you handle yourself far better, and can deal with all these tap lines, spiders, strange blobs, and whatever else crawls, slithers, or stomps into your midst. So, yes, as I said, it is another valuable source of experience for your awareness, and coupled with the fact that while in this state you are practicing being aware and are recognizing and perceiving beyond the physical level. Practicing this recognition is important, so why not take the time, if you have it, to do just this? And also you can be reassured by how adept you are at dealing with adverse situations, and your little self will trust more so that this will be the case, and less inclined to stick its little oar in. Sometimes on awakening you can get bleed-overs from the real side dreams you have had. Elements of the dreams and individuals you were interacting with can follow you through. I've had unpleasant individuals manifest from my dreams into my room that, had I not been in this in-betweeny state and maintained it, I would not have seen. And who knows what they may have done? For yes, we take abuse on the real side and can have the effects on the physical. We can be bruised and battered as these entities and dodgy individuals inflict harm, and we can bear the brunt of their attacks on waking. Generally, because most of creation will have disdain for those trying to leave it and undermine the little fancy lives they have decided for themselves. Because everything is as it is due to the collective created consciousnesses of all the individuals in it, agreeing and deciding that it is so, and most have created little lives that they delight in and cling to, and certainly don't want their very limited apple cart, with its selection of bruised and maggoty old apples, upset. Especially the controllers, who despise us even more, as they surely don't want us leaving the psych realms and encouraging others to do likewise. On one occasion, a creepy individual who had been bothering me on the real side, who had fled from laser-firing spaceships that came to my assistance, evidently was not content to just creep off from whence he came. He followed me onto the physical. I perceived him in my in-betweeny state, and he bound me to the bed as though by invisible shackles. Have you ever had sleep paralysis? The know-it-all scientists will tell you you've woken too early, and your muscles are still immobilized to prevent you acting out your dreams. And although this may account for some situations of paralysis, I suggest not all. And had I not been in a place where I could see this person, I would not realise my immobilisation stemmed from him. Again, my real self knew what to do. The New You song was on my lips. It not only released me from my bindings, but dispelled the malignant individual who caused them. So always have that New You song on standby. It deals with far more situations than you might realise, and you don't need to think about if you need to sing it. If you keep your personal created self aside, your real self knows when and if to utilise the New You song, which is the connection to the All Is. Also, all cancers begin on the astral level. If we are agreeing with something that results in a tap line, and the source of the tap lines are those dastardly reptilians, Then they siphon off and drain your energy through the tap lines, and ultimately this translates as disease and cancers on the physical level. All the Ekankar members who still are agreeing to the limited position of the now infected and distorted corporation are heavily tap-lined through the reptilians, and many are beginning, and surely will, experience the effects of what they have decided for themselves, that of cancers. As I said, I saw a potential cancer-inducing situation perceived as a strange blob floating towards me. This may not be how all cancers will be perceived, but certainly some varieties, it would appear. It works the other way around too. As much as dream imagery follows us in from the real side at times, we can more readily activate dreams from this place of being in between too. We utilize the imagination. We can imagine something, and instead of it being just in our minds then, in this in-betweeny state, we may now actually perceive it. And also the imagination is a far better tool to use than the mental or emotional body. It is the gateway to the real universes. What I have found is, if I focus strongly on whatever I see in this state, then the environment it is in starts to open up around it. My room will fade away, and I am on the real side, with said object of attention, and I am also fully aware. I am now lucid. Effective then a way to trigger lucid dreams, but with dreams being more real than the physical. In fact, we can say we have simply induced a state of awareness on the real side. Depending on the way we use our imagination affects greatly the experience we may activate or place we may find ourselves in. I found recently that if I align myself more so with references to the ears, I imagine some of the images or terminology that the new presentation and Dwayne provides, this is more likely to stimulate experiences far higher in the life levels, and of a far more expansive nature launched from this in-betweeny state. We begin to do this naturally anyway. The more aware we become, the more this awareness and presence of being manifests in our dream environments. We can now pay more attention and learn more effectively from the demonstrations and experiences being provided by the guides. Astral projections can be launched the same way, and I have successfully utilized this in-betweeny state for both lucid dreams and astral projections. But nowadays I don't seek to do either astral projections or lucid dreams, because they were based on my desire for thrills, so an overstimulation of my emotional body, which limits then my connection to my real awareness. But as you can imagine, lucid dreams and out-of-body excursions occasionally will occur, but I approach them from a place of indifference, detachment, objective viewing from a state, as much as I am able, of real awareness, and glean then the experiences I need to better become more aware. you.